which is how the Quixote bypassed medievalism and led to modernity. And basically, I accentuate 5 points. One, privatize art markets, how organic spending patterns of individual citizens determine the success of ideas and people. Number 2, the Gutenberg printing press, how this enabled people to sidestep Inquisition to centralize censors and index of banned books, thus promoting freedom of thought and speech. Number 3, Christianity, how it shifted society from medieval warrior-centric fighter culture to a modern court-centric peace culture and science, through the astronomical observation of various characters, how this paved the way to the modern-day spirit of free inquiry and assertion, and finally, individualism, how the individual spirit of chivalry and the Renaissance, as shown in the Quixote, did away with medieval collectivist social and political control. Okay, my first point, art and money, selling books for profit. Evidently, Cervantes reflects the transition from feudalism to capitalism during the early modern era by showing his readers how money and art went hand in hand at the time. He does this by having Don Quixote and a random author discuss publishing thusly. Quote, "But please tell me this, are you having this book printed on your own account, or have you sold the books to the rights to the bookseller? I'm printing it on my own account, and I'm hoping to make 1,000 ducats at least from this first printing of 2,000 copies, because they'll sell like hotcakes at 6 reals each. Your accounts are in a fine way, I must say. You do not seem to know anything about printers' credits and debits, or the agreements that they make with each other, but I can promise you that when you find yourself loaded down with 2,000 copies of your book, you'll soon be so exhausted from trying to sell it." What do you mean? You want me to let a bookseller have it and give me 3 marghettis for the copyright and think you're doing me a great favor? I don't print my books to achieve fame, because my deeds have already made me well known. Profit is what I want, because without it, fame isn't worth a farthing. End quote, page 916. This conversation notes how a commercial marketplace emerged in Spain. To explain, prior to the Renaissance, there was little commercial activity where artists could put their works on display in shop windows and sell them directly to the public. In the Middle Ages, there was no private art markets like we have today. But after the Renaissance, private bookstores contracted with artists individually so that they could spread their ideas to the reading public if they were clear enough to be bought and financially successful. Next point, printing press, freedom of speech. Cervantes also illustrates how Western thought moves away from medieval ideas by showing the readers how the Gutenberg printing press enabled people to sidestep the Holy Inquisition's index of banned books. For example, one day our knight, quote, looks up and sees written in large letters over a door the words books printed here, which pleases him to no end, because he'd never seen a printing house and was keen to know what they were like. So in he goes with all his retinue and all to observe men printing in one place, correcting in another, setting up type over there, revising over here, and in short, all the different activities of a large printing house. End quote, page 914. Basically, all of Don Quixote's observations of and questions to publishers reflects the fascination that great Renaissance thinkers like Cervantes had with the newly invented process of mechanized printing, which rapidly distributed their ideas to the general public. Theoretically, this is important because the printing press enabled people to directly transmit their ideas to readers for the first time without having to A, gain the church's approval, B, secure powerful political patrons, or C, be wealthy enough to self-finance and self-market their own books. Next point, moderate Christianity is a civilizing influence. One other way Cervantes breaks free of the Middle Ages is by showing in the Quixote how Christianity was a civilizing force throughout history, since it restrained the bestial love of mere violence by penetrating the knightly order with the church's teachings. This is why Cervantes approves of the church's campaigns against feudal barbarity in the Quixote, which he shows by, quote, having the Duke of Aragon referee a joust between Don Quixote and Tostilos, where he institutes a whole host of safety precautions like removing the iron tip from his lance so that Tostilos can defeat Don Quixote without killing or wounding him, eluding the first clash of arms that would likely result in Don Quixote's death if they met at full tilt, surveying the field of battle to make sure there are no hidden obstacles that could cause a trip and a fall, and lastly, ensuring no one has an unfair advantage because the sun is in his opponent's eyes. End quote, page 865, 866. This is Rutherford translation. Penguins, the most recent one. Ultimately, since Don Quixote and Tostilos do not joust at all, Cervantes dramatizes the provisions of the Ecumenical Council of Trent in his novel, which outlawed jousting altogether, at least in the houses of the high nobility. In brief, Don Quixote's chivalric enterprise manifested, sometimes in a crude and rudimentary form, the virtues and graces of and fine flowers of Christian society, this latter and better modern age. Next point, Renaissance science. Another way Cervantes replaces medieval with modern thought is by showing his readers that during the Renaissance, the willingness to question previously held truth and search for new answers resulted in a period of major scientific advancements. This is why a character named Chrysostomo, who is particularly well versed in astronomy or the science of the stars, explains the movements of the sun and the moon in relation to the earth, predicting with precise accuracy the cyclical occurrence of solar and lunar eclipses. This is significant because during the Renaissance, people began to approach the world empirically and draw rational conclusions based on observation. Thus, from his knowledge of the movement of cosmic bodies, which he uses to forecast weather patterns, Chrysostomo predicts with exact accuracy if a year will be fruitful or not. Due to his agricultural predictions, Chrysostomo's father and many of his friends sowed barley, wheat, chickpeas, and olives, when and as appropriate, enriching themselves with bumper crops in the process. In conclusion, such a reliance on the cosmos to predict weather climate patterns suggests the scientific spirit of the new times that were coming. Next point, individualism, not collectivism. Finally, Cervantes moves readers away from the collective spirit of medievalism to the individual spirit of modernity by showing readers the Renaissance fascination with the individual human being, with the mental viewpoint of one person, in contrast to the medieval group perspective, which homogenized people regardless of difference. In other words, by stressing the honor to be gained from individual adventuring, Miguel shows readers that Don Quixote was an ardent champion of individual virtue. This is why our knight frees a young laborer named Andres from being whipped for losing sheep, liberates innocent persons accused of witchcraft and incest, and convinces a man named Tostilos to marry Donna Rodriguez's daughter without dueling him in a joust. Through these efforts, Don Quixote meets self-imposed tests of personal enterprise and endurance, honor to be acquired by individual adventuring. This is significant. The spirit of chivalry and the spirit of modernity, at least here in the United States of America, are both based on individual achievement. In brief, Quixote shows readers that during the Renaissance, a new modern spirit of individualism was displacing the medieval paradigm of collectivist, religious, and political control. In conclusion, the Renaissance, as seen in Quixote, is a spirit when Western thought breaks away from medieval ideas. Thus, quote, ideas behind the Renaissance, particularly the overwhelming desires in letters to get at the truth and in art to present the truth as we see it, were a force that pushed writers and artists like Cervantes to the highest levels. But the Renaissance was not determinative. Artists in particular were not forced to conform to its aims by its compulsive spirit. Rather, it gave artists much greater opportunities than in medieval times to be themselves and develop their capacities to the full, end quote. Hence, it unleashed the geniuses. Indeed, Cervantes expresses the critical spirit of the new times that were coming by writing a superb satire directed towards that one ideology of the Middle Ages. Through a pathetic but infinitely appealing character, he depicts an outmoded way of life. And in this stirring of new attitudes, we may find the beginnings of ideas that ultimately matured into the Spanish Enlightenment. Thus, thanks in part to Cervantes, eventually the ideas and attitudes of medieval culture disappear completely and are replaced by those of the Renaissance. And though instinctively Don Quixote adhered to the old order, the old values, insofar as he drew inspiration from the present, from the experience of the past, Cervantes makes way for the Renaissance's new system of values by not only marking the decline and transformation of chivalry in his book, but also by noting the shifting intellectual climate of his day. And looking forward to the question and answer period, guided by our wonderful moderator, Matt Bourdain, who did an excellent job. And afterwards, I'll sit at that table, sign and sell books. Please feel free to pick up envelopes for free and my other materials. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, I'm so sorry. This is my original Don Quixote book. And I read it so much that it disintegrated and crumbled. So I had it handsomely rebound in this leather case, and I had it a gold letter with my name. And as you can see, this is all my gathering of the concrete Quixote. You know, the chivalry, letters, romance, and so forth. Some are vertically oriented, some are horizontally oriented. So a lot of studying. That's why it took me so many years.
Sorry. It looks like maybe the top of Mount Everest with the colorful flag. and the literary, mountain climbing that is Don Quixote. So we're right on time. This is fantastic. We have a full 15 minutes. You don't have to have a world-shattering question, You can have a comment, you can have an opinion, you can have a compliment. Who would like to start us off? Many shy people. Be shy. Yes?
I have a question for Montserrat. So I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you very much. Are you suggesting that Marcella is a kind of symbolic Isabel of the Queen of England because she rejects her male suitors?
Yeah, I don't have the detailed information for where I found that, but whenever I read it, after reading a lot of Bacon's information about what he wrote, and then whenever I read, when I read again our novel, or teaching the class again, more and more I find parallels. And so what to do with it, we'll see. But it keeps coming up, the parallels.
Thanks, Matt.
Just
More
a
questions?
compliment.
Yes.
I would like to just say a compliment to Adrian Woods. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was interesting to see the parallels between Cervantes and Poe. I really enjoyed that. Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? I mean, it's not so much about the comparison between Don Quixote and the Fall of the House of Usher, but I'm interested in the way in which the Romantics, of which Poe was one, sort of used Don Quixote as a metaphor for the kind of epitome of the mad genius, right? His locura, really, they found inspirational. And I just wonder how you think that fits into other works of Poe, because he was clearly of that vein.
Well, there's definite locura in some of the characters of Poe. I have not considered in great detail the madness as an influence on Poe because it's so overshadowed by Poe's own personal drama. But there's the definite idea of the freedom of the individual to behave as he so desires, whether it is entirely acceptable or not, whether it brings up questions in the minds of spectators or not.